To continue the explanation, let's talk about why we would want to axiomatize anything at all. Well, the history of axiomatizing geometry actually provides a good set of answers to that question. So, of course, even primitive, pre-civilized people had sort of physical intuitions, geometric intuitions that would allow them to reason about space, distance, size, shape, and so on. But as civilization progressed, especially as concepts got written down in a written language, people started to more systematically and carefully analyze these concepts and discovered certain not obvious facts about geometry. For instance, if you have heard of it, most of you I'm guessing have, the Pythagorean theorem was an early mathematical discovery, and but some of these facts were then found to be related to each other. And in fact, if you imagine that you had yourself a situation where you knew some fact A, like it could be the Pythagorean theorem, whatever the case may be, we will see things like this. You have discovered some fact A, but then you realize that it can be used to prove some other fact B. But then you realize that, in fact, if you had started with B, you could prove A. Then the question is, which one of these facts, A or B, is fundamental? And are we perhaps in danger of performing circular reason, in which case some of these arguments may be invalid? Well, once enough geometric discoveries had been sort of found, the ancient Greek geometer named Euclid wanted to organize all of this information together. And in particular, one of the organizing principles is that there will be foundational facts, which we call axioms. Now, these foundational facts serve as organizing principles, right? We do not try to explain or derive them, and as long as we accept them, we accept anything that follows from them. Now, for one thing, that is how you eliminate the possibility of, or at least if you perform that project well, you will not be reasoning circularly. I'm sure Euclid also regarded the axioms as true, not just as good organizing principles, but they were at the very least organizing principles. But it turned out that with these axioms, he proved all of standard geometry, which we call Euclidean geometry. So that was the discovery, so to speak, of Euclidean geometry. But there were 5 axioms, sometimes called postulates, and the 5th postulate, the so-called parallel postulate, which we'll discuss in more detail with all the other postulates later, but just at a high-level description, the parallel postulate was regarded as not very axiom-like, because it seemed too complicated and it seemed like not the kind of thing you take as fundamental. So for the next 1,000 years and then some, people tried to prove the 5th postulate from the other 4 so that they could eliminate it from the list of fundamental facts, but nobody could do it. And eventually Riemann, a German mathematician, realized that, in fact, you can replace that axiom with alternate axioms that would contradict it, but you can replace that axiom with some other axioms and get a consistent geometry. So, for one thing, that shows that the 5th postulate really is fundamental, because the other 4 can go with something else. So the 5th postulate is not in any sense derivable from the first 4. We'll discuss all of this and the notion of independence in greater detail later. But this resulted in a genuine mathematical discovery, the discovery of non-Euclidean geometries. And that's another reason why we might be interested in axiomatizing geometry,